and welcome to the College Football Mafia Bombers Hit List Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me tonight, I don't know how many guests I might only have the one with Justin here with me early, but I might end up with 5 by the time it's over. Anyways, I wanted to do a show tonight. I really appreciate everybody being here. Justin, but before I get into the rest of this, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody why you're here, and what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yes, I'm Justin Lucas. I'm a college student here at East Carolina in Greenville. We love our baseball here, and I'm a political science with a pre-law concentration major, and I worked for the Sampson Independent. So I love sports and law, and so these two things coming together has been like the best combination possible for me. And I've just really enjoyed it. Probably enjoyed it too much, to be honest with you.
You need to get through school. That's got to be your number one.
That's right. That's right. My mom agrees.
Well, I agree with your mother. They're usually smarter anyway. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'm sorry I missed the show last night. I had some, real life conflicts and stuff, but I really appreciate all the notes that everybody sent me asking if I was doing okay. Thank you very much for that. That always makes me feel better. So I appreciate everybody being here tonight. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Justin, what is your Twitter? You can add that to your name. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay, so
my Twitter is at.
No, take your mouse.
Right now?
Do it right now. And on the picture down below the main screen, there's 3 dots.
Oh, okay, I see it.
And then say edit name and headline. You can put your Twitter handle right there. 2 separate lines.
Thank you.
Of course, yeah. No, I want everybody to get credit for what they're doing. They're perfect. His Justin Lucas, and it's just R_02. Anyways, we appreciate everybody being here tonight. Make sure you subscribe, follow us all on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications. That's a really big piece of all this. I'm going to run a short video here on how you can become a member of the Mafia family, and then we'll get on to a little more business and then get started. Again, I really appreciate everybody being here tonight, and let's make this a good show.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
All right, we always celebrate those memberships, and so I appreciate everybody that comes here, all the members that we've had for a long time now, and all the new people that are starting to pay attention to what we do. Really quick, before we get into anything else, I want to make sure I tell everybody some of the member benefits that we do have here. It's not just coming in and getting preferential treatment on your messages. It's also, there's actually stories that we put together on Wild University and also on other things that we want those things to get called out, and those will get protected behind a paywall for a certain amount of time. Membership, it comes with its privileges. You'll have access to that. Really quick, let me show you some of the stories we've had in the past. Let me make this big so everybody can see it. In the past, we started out with down here, we talked to Doug Rohan about kind of private equity and legal and how that all works. And then there was the Florida State to the Big Ten. Then there was the Florida State, and this was basically the private equity dance. That'll go through and explain to you what private equity can do for any school or college. Then we have Clemson to the Big Ten. Then we have North Carolina to the Big Ten. Then we have Miami to the Big Ten. And those are all very questionable right now. And we'll talk about those in a little bit, but those shows are out there. And then, of course, last night, we had one drop here that's in the members only corner. It's actually Coos Corner came in and did a special for us. I believe it's just below 20 minutes long. And it's Coos Corner, why Notre Dame will not join a conference. I watched the video and is extremely entertaining. So I would encourage anybody who's a member, watch that video. And then lastly, underneath the membership tab, right here on the College Football Mafia main page, this is also where we will put locked up messages. All right, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you. Let's see, did I cover everything? I think so. All right, let's remove this. Let's get to some business. First, let's shout out some people. Holy cow, we have a new member. Look at that, Sooner Legends. Sooner Legends is a new YouTube member. Thank you much, Sooner Legends. I don't have all the sounds that Moen does. Let's see here. I will. Let me see if I can find a sounder for you. How about clapping? I got clapping.
There we go.
Shows you how silly I am. I'm not even sure what I put down there. I appreciate you being a member, Sooner Legends. Please make sure you check out those videos. Leave comments because we are reacting to those comments in real time, and we want to do more and better videos coming up. Wild Ute is using or working on a Big 12 section of these, and he's talking about, does Virginia Tech fit the Big 12? Does Pitt fit the Big 12? Because Louisville or Syracuse, those are going to be entertaining. The next one he's going to put out, though, is Washington State, Oregon State, and if they have any chance to possibly get into the Big 12 or into the ACC when it starts to fall apart. Last thing I got to do, there's so much work here. I'm on 6 minutes. This is too much work. I got to say hey to everybody. Buckshot Kid was the first one in the house. He says, oh, hey, at the College Football Mafia. Appreciate you being here. Buckshot Kid, Joaquin Morales, number 2. Greetings, the College Football Mafia family. Smash that like button. Let's go. Thank you very much, Joaquin. That's me saying hello back. We got Johnny Bard, one of our new members, says greetings, all one and all. And he's saying hi to me. Thank you very much, Johnny. I appreciate it. Edward Wayner says hello, all. Friends call me Sean. And another member says, prayers for Moen. Get well soon, my man. If you didn't know, Moen After Dark had surgery today, little procedure. Nothing we are necessarily super worried about, but got to do some exploration. So if you wouldn't mind keeping him in your prayers, he's going to be recovering for the next little while, and we're certainly going to miss him. Let's see here. Daniel Gygax says, so far only one game called wrong. I'm blaming Bomber, and that one game would be BYU. If you want to know why I'm wearing my BYU gear, is because I am a true fan, even though they got smoked by I don't even want to talk about the school that beat them. It was very embarrassing, but I'm still a loyal member. So yeah, Daniel, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, man. I heard that it busted like over 100,000 brackets on ESPN, just the BYU game. That's brutal.
Busted 3 of mine.
Yeah, right. Raider Vision, another member, says, I hope Moen is doing well. Thank you very much, Raider. Sergeant Pickles in the house. Good to have you, Pickles. College Football Mafia show on a Thursday in this economy? That's funny. Okay, I'm sorry. That's really funny. Pickles. I'm going to start doing these one-off shows. Doesn't matter what the day is. I like doing this stuff. Anyway, Two Master, another member, says, head on a swivel. That is true. Greg Flugar, peek around the corner, which is where I found this Justin kid. He's super smart, and we're going to be listening to him in just a little bit. Doug Rohan will also be joining us. So a lot more smarter people than me are going to be on here. Laura Weiss says, hey, y'all. Hope Moen is okay. Thank you very much, Laura. I will pass that on. The Big Lubbock says, hello, Mafia. Sooner Legend says, hey, Bomber, love your show, brother. I'm from the Hall of Fame Mafia Posse. Another thing I want to tell everybody, you're all invited. I'm starting a Discord server, so everybody offline can be talking in different channels. You can talk about and argue about realignment till you're blue in the face. If you want to be part of that thing, I'm not going to put it out quite yet. I want some testing done, but I am interviewing moderators. So if you're one of the Mafia family regulars and you want to be a moderator, not only here on YouTube, but on Discord, send me a DM and we'll talk, okay? Really looking for people to step up. D5 Terps says, go Terps. Big Lubbock says, get well soon, Moen. West Virginia Earl says, hello, everyone. Thank you, West Virginia Earl, for being a member. I appreciate it. Raider Vision, Bomber, BYU playing Texas Tech in baseball right now from Lubbock, just underway, had a lightning delay. I'm going to tell you right now, they did well in basketball this year. I think in baseball, they're going to struggle. The Big 12 baseball is absolutely ridiculous tough. Conundrum says basketball equals yuck. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Mr. Monkey says in monkey. Okay. Tony Lawson says Laura Weiss. Raider Vision, Texas Tech versus North Carolina State is on deck. Good luck. Yeah. We'll see. I know that's Justin's cheering interest. Stephen Vitt stopping by tonight. Good to see you. And we're just about to the end. Rock Chalk getting here at the end saying, hey, guys. And then Mr. Monkey says ends it with RCJH at 94. Is that Rock? I'm not sure what that means, Mr. Monkey says.
Rock
I don't have my
Chalk Jayhawk.
interpreters. Oh, there it is. See,
Rock Chalk.
smarter people. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I don't have the Jayhawk sound. Oh, there you go. That's the best you're going to get from me. Somebody clip that out and put it on Twitter. Okay. Before we get into any articles, before we get into anything very specific, I just want to give Justin a second here to tell everybody why what's going on today, just today, was such a big deal. And then I'll put up some banners so you can kind of track where that conversation went. So you were on Peek Around the Corner earlier today. Greg Flugar, you guys did a wonderful job. Greg has a great show, obviously. Kind of tell everybody here what you told Greg.
I was on Greg on Monday, I believe.
Okay. Was it Monday?
But
listening to the wrong one.
it was on Monday. So on Monday, of course, that was before we had the Clemson lawsuit and the ACC's countersuit against Clemson University. But what happened today in terms of the court system was yesterday when the ACC filed their lawsuit, they also filed what's called a notice of designation to the business court of North Carolina, which usually whenever you go to court, you go to Superior Court, but there's a special court in North Carolina called the North Carolina Business Court that deals with we can talk about this first. So what happened today was the chair of UNC's Board of Trustees went on a media tour, as best as I can term it, and basically ripped into the ACC. He talked about how the conference is failing its big brands, its top brands. Florida, he named Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and they're doing that at the expense. They're propping up the bottom tier, and that he lays that at the feet of the commissioner, Jim Phillips. And he said that all options should be on the table. And he also, not in this exact article, but this was just after it. He also took what appeared to me and appeared to many people to be shots at Bubba Cunningham, who is the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill's athletic director. He said that he was sticking up for the ACC too much. So It sounds like there's some dissension among the apparatus in Chapel Hill that's causing some issues. I think there's some that want to act now. There's some that don't want to act now, and then there's some that are ambivalent about. They don't really have a preference. So it seems like people are trying to get leverage over those subgroups, and it'll be the next week. There's a Board of Trustees meeting. Now, I don't know if they'll discuss anything in public. They could. There's an opportunity for the board chair, John Pryor, who spoke today, and for the interim chancellor, Lee Roberts, to speak. So maybe they'll speak on, expound upon what they've said in today's news reports, but it'll be fascinating to see what happens from UNC Chapel Hill, because I know Ross Dellinger reported, and it is true, North Carolina is the linchpin. They are the crown jewel of the ACC. They work like Clemson, a charter member, but North Carolina is, because if North Carolina leaves, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, that's when you really get into serious issues for the conference. And it was shocking. I cannot repeat that enough. It was shocking to me to see some of the language he used in both of the news articles that he was quoted in. I did not expect it.
So and I apologize. I had listened to two shows, and I thought the one I heard with you on today was yours. So I'm sorry I got the day wrong.
You're fine. You're fine.
I think that's really important. And here we go. Another smarter guy than I am has joined this stage. Hey, how you doing, Doug? Good to have you here.
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me on. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Well, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I want to introduce you to Justin Lucas.
Hi, Justin.
Justin, why don't you tell them who you are and what you do?
I'm a student at East Carolina in Greenville, so about 3.5, 4 hours from where I think you are in Charlotte. I'm a political science with a pre-law concentration major. I did some sports writing, so sports and law. I didn't think that it would be hand in hand, but apparently it is.
It is this week.
Yeah, it is this week. That's right.
Good deal. A pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely, same to you.
So we were, and this was Justin was just telling everybody how kind of crazy this North Carolina thing came in from left field, some of the language that was used and some of the other things. Now I've got the legal filing here. Did you happen to read? So that document that I sent you, did you piece through it a little bit about North Carolina?
I want to admit to you that I did not look at the Clemson filing. Justin, I
Okay.
have been all over the car washes going through everything FSU related. My
Okay.
wife is not happy with me because I've spent about 50 hours in the last 4 weeks dedicating myself to this issue. And so
I'm
this
sure.
week when Clemson filed suit, I tagged out and I said, I need a Clemson expert. I need somebody else to get into this because I do not have the bandwidth to become an expert in 2 cases that are both outside my area of practice.
No, that's okay.
Could be
That's all
3
right.
or 4 cases by the time we're meeting again.
That is correct. So I'm here to provide color commentary. You describe the plays and you talk about everybody's metrics, and I'll tell you about the goofy analogies that I've seen.
Okay. All right. Before I do that
Well-
really quick, go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, here we have a super chat from a new member, Sooner Legends. He says, hey, Bomber, I'm going live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have a show at the same time. I'm sorry. But definitely have fun. He's going to be on Jason Watkins' show tomorrow. And I just have fun, Sooner. I really appreciate you letting me know that. And the $2 super chat, I'll put it in the kitty. Okay. So to catch you up then, Doug, we had the suit from Clemson to the ACC, right? And they did that in South Carolina.
Yes.
There was a pause. It wasn't just like the Florida State one where they were right on top of it. There was a pause. And if you read through the Clemson one, it was very like it didn't attack ESPN. It didn't use really aggressive language. It just says, we think we're kind of getting ripped off here. That's just gist of it. So now today, maybe it was last night, the hammer comes in and they do countersuit.
Mm-hmm.
The ACC comes in clean, and they're getting really, really aggressive. Is there an actual difference between the Florida State refiling and the Clemson refiling?
Yeah, to my knowledge, to my understanding, the biggest issue is Clemson cleaned up. And look, Clemson, the reason why there was a delay, the reason why Clemson took an extra 4 weeks to get involved is because they had the opportunity to see everything the ACC was going to file.
Right.
So by waiting, and more importantly, by courting the ACC, telling them with back channels, we're going to play along, we're going to play nice, let's work this out, let's not sue, they caught the ACC with their pants down.
Okay.
So not only did they get to file first, but they got to file first with a better argument, with a better complaint. And I do think it was creative. What they're arguing in their suit is the ACC grant of rights has to be reviewed in conjunction with the ESPN contract.
Right.
And so while the ACC grant of rights says it is through 2036, Clemson is trying to introduce this concept that the grant of rights is only subject to the ACC or to the ESPN contract. So by claiming that, what they want to say is that really the grant of rights is only through 2027, which is the period for which the current ESPN agreement is involved.
And that's what
because
Justin,
in the grant
ahead.
of rights it says you irrevocably and exclusively, and then it says necessary to complete the terms of the ESPN agreement until 2036. So they're really honing in on the sentence before, regardless of whether you're a conference member or not. That sentence about the ESPN agreements. It was a creative argument. I must say, Clemson's lawsuit to me seemed to be more succinct, to the point. We didn't have many attacks on other people. It seemed there's never a nice way to sue anybody, but it seemed like they tried to do it as cordially as possible, if they could. Although, if you could go.
No, finish your thought. Although
if you take the ACC at its word and its countersuit in Mecklenburg County, it does not seem like they're being very truthful with the ACC.
This lends credence to the suspicion that these teams have a landing place, and Clemson is leaning towards joining South Carolina in the SEC, whereas FSU is wanting to burn ESPN and the ACC to the ground because they're joining the Big Ten. I think there are some symptoms in here, and they're telegraphing that FSU doesn't give a crap about any of this and wants to burn it all down, whereas Clemson is trying to be a little bit more diplomatic, perhaps because they've got an invite to the SEC.
Because while they filed their complaint, they also filed it was a temporary motion to seal. Like they don't want to, they don't concede that all of it is confidential, but they do concede some of it is confidential, and that they did unlike Florida State, they did redact some of the media agreement stuff, which I agree with you that it does lend some credence to the idea that they're going to go to an ESPN-owned property, which is the SEC.
So really quick, great conversation. I don't like getting in the middle of this, but Doug said something that it to me was like, wait a second, that's the first time I've heard that. So right now tonight, you're saying, and this is a guess, obviously, all your education and background, you know a lot of stuff that I, for instance, don't know. In your experience and what you're saying, Florida State is to the Big Ten, which I think everybody sort of counted that for a long time, but that Clemson and UNC are to the SEC. Is that what you said?
No, I said South Carolina, not.
Okay. All right.
Although look, UNC
is all over the place.
Yeah, right. That's what I've heard.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
They have a faction that wants the Big Ten. They have a faction that wants the SEC. And then they also have a third faction that's smaller than the other two, but it's there, that doesn't think things need to happen so quickly like it is happening, but they are happening. So who knows where UNC goes?
Yep. I would ascribe that. I would co-sign that.
Okay. So the news that we've all just sort of assumed is just waiting for the final day to turn the key is the Florida State to the Big Ten. So now let's just assume that's happened. Okay. Now we have an ACC that is much diminished. In some of my estimations, I've said anywhere from 25 to 40% of the total value is tied into FSU. And frankly, Clemson and UNC have the rest. I mean, we're talking Miami, they're very small minorities. So if we count that already done, and now let me show this. Now let me show you this thing for this North Carolina filing, which I found the word verbiage really. Let's see here. I want to make sure I have the right note. Maybe that's not it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is Justin's. Justin did this post earlier in the day, and it caught my eye. And he says, no shock, the Chief Justice of North Carolina Supreme Court has designated Clemson versus ACC to the business court and assigned the case to Judge Louis Bledsoe. Bledsoe is also presiding over FSU to the ACC. So let's talk about that a little bit. That seems like it's not only a big deal, but does that tie a bow on a lot of this stuff if he ends up on both of them?
It's not a coincidence.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I think for judicial economy purposes, I think it's probably the best thing that could happen, because you're really debating the same issues. Because in the ACC's countersuit, 6 of the claims are the same exact ones that they're seeking against Florida State. The only additional one is a breach of confidential information for FSU. Clemson's does not have that. So I think I would have been more shocked, actually, if it would have been assigned to a different judge, because I think odds are pretty good that he's going to take it upon himself to consolidate the two cases due to the same issues at stake in both of the lawsuits.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further. I think, a lot of FSU people wanted a sidecar. A lot of FSU people wanted Clemson and Miami to get involved. I don't think this helps the chances of the hearing tomorrow. I think this will make it clear that the judge is saying, okay, well, we've already got FSU and we've already got Clemson. UNC might be next. Miami might be after them. Virginia Tech and Virginia. We should just all take care of this in one suit. The judge in North Carolina, I don't think is going to say, yeah, you're right, FSU. The sovereign immunity rules apply and this needs to be handled in Florida, because then you're exposing 5 different states to all come up with their own decision. I think this only increases the likelihood of Justin's point, consolidation, with Judge Bledsoe presiding over all of the cases.
So is there a time limit here? Is there a time limit here so tomorrow is a ruling, right? You're there
Well, it won't be a ruling. It won't be a ruling. I doubt he'll rule from the bench, or at least I hope he doesn't.
Okay, so walk us through what that actually will look like tomorrow.
Well, it starts at 9:30, and there's actually two things that are up. There's the motion to dismiss, and then there's the motion to seal the documents. So those two things, and there'll be arguments and probably questions from the judge and back and forth, and then he'll probably take it under advisement. And a week, 2 weeks from now, he'll probably issue a written ruling. Now, that ruling could be appealed to the North Carolina Court of Appeals like Maryland did. But the difference, I don't think Florida State would do that because Maryland was already leaving. I mean, they were leaving regardless. Right. I mean, Florida State wants to save time. And if you appeal to the North Carolina Court of Appeals, everything at the trial court level is going to time out, and you're just going to elongate this process. Now, if the ACC loses, they're going to appeal to the North Carolina Court of Appeals for obvious reasons. But the time-wise, it could – I don't think you'll get a ruling tomorrow. You'll probably get a ruling in about 2 weeks or so. I would say 1 to 2 weeks. That's just my opinion.
I'll agree in part and dissent in part with Justin. I agree we won't have a ruling tomorrow. There's zero chance that the judge rules from the bench on this issue. It's too high profile a case. The case is too important. He's going to take it under advisement, like Justin said, and then his clerks are going to go through it. Really, my biggest fear is that the judge will ask for supplemental briefs on other issues. He might have something different from what the two parties have briefed up to this point and might say, I want some more information on this point, or I want some more information on that point. That would then play into Justin's 1 to 2 week expectation. I actually think that if he doesn't request supplemental briefs, that hopefully it's next week by Wednesday or Thursday. I'd like to see a quicker ruling because he's already had the paperwork. He's had the paperwork for a month. And yes, the filings and counter filings and the amendments and all that stuff has been added to it, but he knows what the issues are. He's going to ask some questions tomorrow, raise some of the points that he wants to focus in on, try to narrow the issues to what he has in terms of what the contrast is between the two parties. But I'd love to see something sooner. Now, the Florida case is set for April 9th. And obviously, the worst case scenario is that this drags on until April 8th or April 7th. But I'd really like to see something sooner, as early as next Wednesday or Thursday.
At this point, is it too late for Clemson or Miami to jump on board this train?
What do you mean?
Well, meaning whatever happens tomorrow, the Clemson just totally loses their minds and said, we have to be in this too. They panic, right? Fear of missing out.
They're separate suits. They're separate cases.
Okay.
They have separate case numbers assigned. Now, one of the questions that I did get earlier today is, does this judge take into consideration what's happening in the Clemson suit? Maybe some of the arguments that Clemson has made.
Right.
Judges are human. Judges have proclivities. Judges hear the information in all the cases. The judge is going to rule based on the documentation and the argument in front of him. He's definitely going to take into consideration that Clemson is also filed and is filed in his court. It's been assigned to him, and he's going to be aware of Clemson's arguments. But ultimately, the judge is going to provide an order with his reasoning, and the reasoning is going to be based on either what the ACC or FSU is putting forth.
I apologize. I misspoke. I meant North Carolina because Clemson just filed, obviously. I'm not saying it changes anything you were saying. I was just wanting to make sure that was clear. Justin, go ahead.
Do you agree, Doug, that they won't appeal if Florida State won't appeal a denial of the motion to dismiss? Or because if they do appeal, I mean, I think it could take months for that to be heard by the Court of Appeals and before you get a decision.
The strategy that I would give if I was in the room is if we lose in North Carolina, let's appeal in North Carolina because we're going to get the Florida ruling. And that Florida ruling is going to determine whether or not this needs to be removed to federal court if we get a favorable ruling in Florida. So, yes, I do think there's some value in Florida State appealing a loss, but let's not lose sight of the fact that the desire is ultimately for a compromise solution. As much as FSU and ACC are going to bark about being wholly right and taking this to trial, I would stake my house on this being resolved through a compromise settlement.
Really? So you think go ahead, Justin, go ahead.
I think we'll get there at a certain point. I don't think either party's not there right now, but I was actually looking through one of their lawyers' biographies on their law firm's website, and he uses the phrase, I'm an expert in bet your company litigation. So it wouldn't surprise me if the ACC, I think it ends in a negotiated settlement because there's just too much at stake for the ACC. Because if a judge throws it out entirely, the league is just going to completely collapse. But it wouldn't surprise me that if the ACC truly views this as, we have to take this as far as we can, for as long as we can, and fight it out. It wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me if the schools that, like a Wake Forest or Boston College or Syracuse, are telling them to do that. And not to settle. But I think at the end of the day, whenever that time comes, I do think it'll be via a negotiated settlement. But the problem is, and that I keep coming back, usually in a settlement, both sides sort of win something. And to me, I don't see how the ACC wins with a settlement either, because if you let one out, you're going to let two out. If you let two out, you're going to let three out. If you let three out, you're going to let four out. So
let me interrupt you there.
The only thing
let me interrupt you there really quick. Doug, go ahead, and then I'll say.
No, because I've got 3 points to make. So
okay, really, I'll speak quickly. So the fact that the college football playoff was resolved and now you have a value assigned to each conference, that's what broke the bank here, right? That's what got everything moving, the sludge down the hall, because now they have a value. And they can't say, oh, we're going to sneak in at another negotiation. Maybe we'll get more money in the ACC. Nope. That stratification is done. So that's my first thing. The second thing I would say is, if they're now moving all in this direction, yeah, I can see a settlement happening. But in my opinion, I would still think that Florida State would try to hold out to the bitter end, because once you get discovery, everybody's going to look bad, and it's going to be mostly ESPN and ACC. FSU might have some stuff, like the fact that their president signed with out going to the board of trustees, but that's already been exposed. So I cannot think of a reason why Florida State would settle, except they just want to go on vacation. Okay, go ahead, Doug.
So first, big fan of Greg's. I'm glad that he's jumping on here and putting in his post, and I appreciate him having me on his show last week. That was a very insightful show. We had great guests on there, and really enjoy what Greg's putting out.
I appreciate him more. I think I'm higher than you are. Go ahead.
But to that point, to your point first, with respect to the timing of this, I want to be very clear that there's a couple threshold issues that we have to keep in mind. The first of which is, every year that Florida State is in the ACC is a cost of $20 to $30 million in terms of the difference. Yeah. August 15th is the important date. August 15th is the time by which they need to put in their notice, if we're going to respect some of the bylaws and not other bylaws, that's when we need to put in the notice that we're leaving by 2026. So I think there will be something determined before August 15th, because if we wait till after August 15th, we've got to play the 2026 season in the ACC, and they don't want to do that. Okay. So backing up the issue, the Maryland case, they announced their departure January of 2013. They reached a settlement in August of 2014. So if we're looking for any comparative analysis, it took back then about 18 months for them to reach an agreement on departure. I think in this accelerated age of the 24-hour news cycle and everything just happening a little bit faster, I'd really like to see that compressed to more like 11 months. And to Justin's point, I don't know what the timing is of when they would reach an agreement. I disagree that FSU wants to drag this out. I disagree that the ACC wants to drag it out. I think the parties will get serious about negotiations after this hearing, March 22nd, because both of them want a sneak peek into what the judge is going to say. Beyond that, discovery starts. And Florida State is not concerned with discovery, whereas the ACC is very concerned with discovery. And that's why I think some serious talks in April, May, June, a framework agreement in July, and then they put pen to paper in August before FSU kicks off in Ireland.
I noticed in the, and you may have mentioned this before in one of these shows, but I noticed that in North Carolina, the discovery is not taking place, but in Florida, the Florida State is not playing nice and not consenting to a stay of discovery until the motion to dismiss is adjudicated, which was not surprising to me, but shows that they probably don't really care for it. They don't really are not scared of discovery.
Not all your viewers might be aware of what you're talking about, Justin. So let's lay it out a little bit more clear. Whenever there's a motion to dismiss or a motion to stay, you're asking the court to say this litigation doesn't need to go forward. And so that filing took place first in North Carolina by FSU. And so the ACC and FSU got together and said, look, we're going to have a hearing on March 22nd about whether or not there even should be a case. Let's just go ahead and put discovery on the back burner. Let's not spend hundreds of hours putting together the documents and answering the questions. Let's just wait and see what happens first. So then the ACC files their motion to dismiss in Florida. And then probably 48 hours later, they go to FSU's attorneys and say, hey, you know how we put the discovery on hold in North Carolina? Let's just go ahead and agree to do the same thing in Florida. And FSU was like, get the heck out of here. We want those documents. Florida's going forward. And so that's why the ACC had to file a protective order in Florida. And the judge is going to grant it. But it's a good example of where FSU is picking the times when they're going to play nice. And they're playing nice in North Carolina, but they're giving them the middle finger in Florida.
What about this note from Tony Lawson, who's been a longtime member here? He says, response to a post by Conundrums, it's interesting that Florida and North Carolina have different federal appeals courts, the 11th and the 4th. So let's talk federal for a second. What's the chance all these things get thrown into one and the federal now turns around and rules?
So I've been on 3 shows to talk about this specific issues where this has come up. If North Carolina says we want the case, it's going to stay here. And if Florida says we want the case, it's going to stay here, then you have a conflict. And both of them can then remove it to federal court. But the problem is, exactly as Conundrum points out, it's 2 distinct federal court districts. The difference is in the superior courts and in the Leon County courts, you have local homerism at a higher degree than you do in the federal courts. And so what I would like to see is that if it's removed to the federal court, the academic side of this issue prevails, and between the 2 federal courts, there's a logical reasoning as to why it should be one or the other. I expect both state courts to say it needs to stay in this state.
Right.
I hope as we get to the federal court level, where they probably are not a Florida State grad or a Duke grad, that there can be a little bit of a distinction drawn and they can make a more thorough legal analysis as to why it should be North Carolina or Florida.
How do they enjoy those how do they combine those 2 into one?
It's not combined.
Okay, so there'd be 2 rulings. There'd be one in one appeals and another in another appeals?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
And
hell.
then if you have a conflict in the appellate court at the federal level, that's when it would go up to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to make an analysis.
Okay. Go ahead, Justin.
Who's ready for ACC?
Or 2027.
Yeah, that's what I joked with a friend 2 days ago. I was like, he's a lawyer in Georgia, actually. And I joked, I said, are you ready for ACC versus FSU at all on a late June day at the U.S. Supreme Court waiting for a ruling at 10 a.m.? And he's like, I don't think they're going to touch that with the 10-foot pole, actually. So, with the 10-foot pole, actually. So, but yeah, I think the ACC, they probably are not as opposed to it going to federal court. I think they just want to keep it out of the state court systems. Do you agree?
Yeah. And look, the ACC wants this to last as long as possible. Every year that the FSU is in the ACC is another year that the ACC is winning.
That's right. They're cashing checks that whole time.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
Johnny, I see your question down there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see the question down there, and I was actually watching the ACC network yesterday, and they had Pete Famwan on the evening network, and he made a good point. He said he'd be shocked if Clemson and Florida State were not in the ACC in 2025, in August of 2025, just because of how the legal system works. And he doesn't think that there would be resolution by August 14th of 2024, which I tend to agree with.
To that point, so right now FSU is trying to relate back their departure to August of 2023.
I remember they mentioned that. We talked about that before, right?
And that means you play the entirety of 2023 and 2024 in the ACC if they win that argument. If they have a notice in 2024, before August 15th, they play the entirety of 2024 and 2025. If it's after August 15th of 2024, then they play the entirety of 2025 and the entirety of 2026.
Okay. Okay. And that timetable is pretty average, you would think. I mean, it would take that long. It took Oklahoma and Texas 2 years to get out.
There's been some speculation that the Big Ten has a super secret, pre-planned 2025
Right.
schedule with FSU in it. There is 0% chance that that's the case. I will eat glass if that's the case.
I want to refer back to this comment from Greg. Greg's partner in crime out in this creative world, and I really appreciate all his leadership. He's had some great shows recently, and I want to give him lots of credit. That's how I hooked up with Justin. So I really appreciate you, Greg, watching. Thank you very much.
I like PATC.
Well, good. I like him too. Terry Kane, one of the members, says, what's the odds that ESPN will just blow up the gore and everyone gets out of jail free? I think get out of free is probably pretty low, but walking away in 25, that's only, 10 months away?
Look, if the ESPN rejects the unilateral extension, then that means the ACC is going to YouTube TV or Peacock. And YouTube TV or Peacock is going to pay 1/3 of what the ESPN contract was. So even if the judge decides the grant of rights is valid, if ESPN is out, that grant of rights might only be worth $350 million and not $524 million.
I think ESPN. I saw David Hill tweet about this. I think ESPN, even without Florida State, it would not be the same value. So they may not pick up the option at the same value. They may say, let's renegotiate and let's figure out a number, because the Big 12, even without Texas and Oklahoma, got a pretty respectable 33 million, I think was what it was.
32,
and the ACC
just under 32. Yeah.
Just under 32. So you would see an ACC without Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina, and a fourth, who knows, could maybe get like 23 million, 24, 25 million. So I think ESPN, I think they see value in having some ACC schools underneath their umbrella, because they have to share. If they go to the Big 12, they have to share them with Fox, and ESPN needs content too. So I don't think that ESPN would totally blow up the grant of rights in the ESPN agreement. I think more likely what they would do would be say, let's renegotiate, and and if that number may not be acceptable to ACC schools named Louisville or Pittsburgh, and then they may would join the Big 12. But we're many roads away from that, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Doug. You wanted to say something, didn't you? Okay. No, I'm missing your body language tonight for some reason. My head's somewhere else. Sergeant Pickles, one of our actual contributors here for $1.99 super chat, says, did someone say schedule? I got you, and that's true. He loves making schedules. Anybody wants to put a 36-team Big Ten schedule together? Look up Sergeant Pickles. That's his thing. Yeah, I want to also recognize that he's been a paying member. So not only is he's a partner here, but he's actually a contributing member for 8 months. And he says it will blend my brain, but this should be fun. So I hope he's talking about us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we talked last week. He was a great host when we talked last week together.
Yeah, they're really smart, and I think they do really good work. Let's see here. So there was another question I had that going into this. So Jim Williams, and I can't find his tweet. Jim Williams basically said, look, even if they lose Florida State and maybe one other, I think he might have said Clemson school, the ACC is not going anywhere. It's going to stick together. The only difference is how much that conference will actually be worth. So the question in my mind, and we're just guessing here, educated guessing, but what is the make break? Because I don't think, unless Notre Dame joins full time, I don't think the ACC losing Clemson and Florida State are worth the $32 million. That's my opinion. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Justin.
I think I don't know what they'd be worth, because I'm not a media valuation expert, but I don't think they'd be worth what they are the same with Florida State and Clemson in it.
Right.
I don't know how much less it would go, because you have to remember the Big 12, even without Texas and Oklahoma, got a pretty respectable deal. Maybe that's because their commissioner is very aggressive and knows how to sell his conference. But the first question before you go is, does the ACC even want to stick together?
Right. Yeah. That is a
After
good question.
Florida and Clemson, Florida State and Clemson and UNC and whoever else goes. And I don't know the question to that because a lot of this stuff is driven by panic. And if those three left, you'd have Louisville out here saying, what am I going to do? I don't have time to stick around and wait to renegotiate a deal. They could take a life raft off to the Big 12. Same for Pittsburgh, same for NC State, same for Virginia Tech. So first you have to determine who even is the ACC and what, before you even evaluate their worth, what is the ACC? Who's in the ACC? Because if you had an ACC with NC State, Virginia Tech, Louisville, I mean, those aren't big brands, but they're sort of comparable to Big 12 brands. But then the problem the ACC has is they have Wake Forest and Boston College, and those are just so small and just they don't bring enough media.
Well, and you got it right here. This is Patrick from Baylor. He's saying basically the ACC would be worth less than the Pac was, basically because once you lose those big brands, Washington State and Oregon State are very comparable in value to Wake Forest and Boston College. So go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
I'm a little bit of a contrarian here. Maybe it's the nostalgic person that I am. ACC has value. ACC has not been the worst thing that has ever happened, since Nazi Germany. The ACC has value. Its primary value is in basketball. And if they would embrace the Big East concept of we're going to be the basketball conference, they've got some great programs. If they can survive just losing FSU and Clemson, and from what I've seen in the research, and Altamonte is one of the guys, not necessarily a fan of him personally, but he puts out some good data. I believe it's about 30% of the football viewership leaves with Clemson and Florida State. That being said, the basketball viewership probably remains stable. The baseball viewership probably is on par. There's a lot of FSU rabid baseball fans, but you're talking about incremental changes at the second and third tier sports. So if the ACC were to survive, and if I was advising them, I would say embrace this idea that football is not our identity. Boston College and Wake Forest don't want to be football schools. That's the reality.
And and that's why my first call, if the ACC were to stay together, my first call would be after those schools left and declared they were leaving, my first call would be to UConn, because that seems like a no-brainer.
And South Florida, there's a few you could get.
FAU, Florida Atlantic.
Another
top 10 basketball appearance.
You could even look at Oregon State and Washington State at that point to help.
And the ACC outside of football is a very, very good. It doesn't make any money, but very, very good Olympic sport conference. You had Stanford in with that swimming and all this other stuff but it doesn't bring in any money. That's
football drives realignment. They're not moving for baseball or basketball money. Craig Cakes in football, one of our members for $2 super chat says, can FSU ask for expedited judgment? I guess expedition of judgment. Do you know what that means?
Their lawyer said whenever they filed it, because I remember a trustee asked whether they would seek like a preliminary injunction or a TRO, and they said no, we're going to let the litigation go through its normal course.
Okay.
I don't think an expedition of judgment. I'm not quite sure.
Do you know what that means, Doug?
I've never heard that term. On the criminal defense side, we have speedy trials.
Right.
I don't practice in North Carolina. I've said repeatedly on these shows, this is outside my area of expertise. What I'm doing is every time something happens, I'm researching and learning. And I'm using my law school brain to educate our fans as to the process and the procedure, but I'm not opining as to what's going to happen. And I'm not trying to tell people what should be done. At the end of the day, I've been very proud of this. Let me say, this is a tertiary situation. But in scrolling through Twitter, when I see all the FSU people commenting on the litigation, I'm honored. I'm proud to see how educated most of the posters actually have been on this issue. And And based on how many shows I've appeared on, I will take some small margin of credit for the fact that our fans understand what's happening and seem to be giving intelligent feedback and intelligent conversation as other fans from other schools try to put in their dig. So I believe I've done my job, which is to make our fan base more educated on the process, but I'm not trying to tell people what's going to happen or it's suggesting what the attorneys should do. The attorneys that are involved in this process are far more capable and competent than I am. I'm just chasing after them. I'm the first car behind them, scooping up all the knowledge and figuring it out so that I can explain it to everybody else.
Why don't you tell everybody what you do and where you're at? We're starting to branch out here, Doug. We're getting southeast and eastern seaboard now. So tell everybody what you do.
I appreciate that, Nathan. So I run my own law firm in Atlanta, Georgia, and we primarily focus on criminal defense and work accidents, personal injury. So all attorneys are licensed by the state, and that's one reason why this has been a labor of love, because I'm getting to know all of these people from Florida, all of these people from North Carolina. Now it's starting to get more national. And really, the Atlanta Seminole Club is the largest Seminole club outside of the state of Florida. But if you have a friend or if you know somebody that is injured or arrested in the state of Georgia, then please keep my information handy. I would love to help them out. If I could get 2 cases in exchange for all of this publicity that I've done, I would consider that to be a So keep our information handy. Follow us on Twitter. I'm going to be live tweeting tomorrow. We haven't really talked about that.
Yeah, please do. Tell everybody about it.
I'm in Charlotte because I want to attend the hearing. And look, all hearings are public. The Constitution requires that criminal and civil matters be available to the public. So I expect to be able to get my way into the courtroom, and I expect to be live tweeting my experience and my thoughts on what's happening in the courtroom. So before any of the other reporters get out and get to give you their feedback of what's been happening, follow Rohan Law PC on X, and we'll make sure that you get my impressions of the hearing as it's happening.
I'm typing this. I'm going to put this bar up so everybody can see that. But so live tweeting, that's a big deal, right? Is that something you would have guessed you would have been doing that 6 months ago?
No, but let me also be very clear. We're speculating that I can get in. It's about an 80-90% chance that I should be able to get in, but we're hoping I can get in. Judges have different particular rules. I'm hoping they don't have a no electronic policy. Typically, most judges are fine with the attorneys being on their phone. I do have my bar card with me. So if somebody does try to give me a hard time, I should be slightly below the ESPN reporters and slightly above the general public. So worst case scenario, they should have an overflow room if there is such interest. I don't imagine there's going to be more than 15 or 20 reporters there, but if there is incredible response to this, they should have an overflow room set up with a video feed. But we're going to try and see what we can do about getting in. I expect to be able to get in. I would be shocked if for some reason I'm kept out of the hearing room.
I just want to give
I saw that the judge, you can go ahead.
Justin. No, go ahead.
I saw that the judge earlier this afternoon signed an order allowing, I don't know if it's video, I don't know if it's live streaming, but I do know that he signed an order allowing video and other types of electronics to be had
very
to record.
You have to ask the judge to record the courtroom. It's very common for them to grant the right to record. Live streaming is a post-COVID phenomena. So it depends on how technologically advanced the judge is and how interested he is in the publicity. I would say 80% chance it's just going to be recorded video that can then be subsequently publicized in the news report at the end of the day. About 10% chance he allows live recording and 10% chance that he doesn't allow any electronics other than what's been approved in the recording. But I would expect ESPN and maybe a local news agency, maybe 3. The courtrooms are not huge, so they don't allow 30 cameras in there.
Right.
I would expect somebody to be designated as the reporter on scene, the recorder, and then they're obligated to share their recording with all the other news agencies.
So let's do this. Let's do a quick reset. We've been an hour now, and I want to thank both Justin and Doug for being here. Please, I just put up in the banner just below us the information for Rohan Law. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, and then look him up tomorrow live tweeting for that ruling for Florida, not ruling, the hearing for Florida State. I want to be very clear. I'm getting the language right. I also want to, at the same time, you are a Florida State. Danielle Kelly is another legal person that has helped educate the Florida State people. I would like to say that I hope we have helped that a little bit, my show and the people that we have on our team, because we've been covering it wall to wall for over a year. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have been in it. But, Doug, by far, you've been the one that you and Mitt Winter are the two that have been out the most for all this stuff. And I just really want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
All right, let's get to some. I got another super chat here from Rock and Rant. Another member for $2 says, "Great show, guys. Thanks for the drive home updates." You're very welcome, Rock. Glad to have you here.
You work too late, Rock. You shouldn't be driving home this late.
It's true. He does. He's a hard worker. Here's a comment from Kyle Visser. Says, "North Carolina steers the ACC. When they decide to bail, the clock will speed up." What do you think about that? The whole idea that North Carolina is the living, breathing heart of the ACC, and it's not Florida State and it's not Clemson.
Well, as someone who lives here, I like I said earlier, I can't think of a state that more identifies with a sports league than the state of North Carolina. I mean, the ACC, we have 4 teams here. But if North Carolina's linchpin. I mean, if North Carolina were to leave, my odds are that the league would survive, but it'd be G5. I mean, it would not be a power conference at all because everyone would leave. NC State would leave, Virginia would leave, Virginia Tech. So Florida State and Clemson are big brands. North Carolina is like the crown jewel of the ACC because, I mean, that's just who the league, because North Carolina, Tobacco Road ran the conference for so long, and it still does to a certain extent. But yes, if North Carolina left, I do think it would blow up the conference as we know it.
I 100% agree with Justin, and I don't have a single word to add. That was perfectly put.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll move right along.
I will add on North Carolina, though, there's a lot of dissension there. You have the athletic director. I mean, I was shocked today to see the board chair call out the athletic director like he did. I was just absolutely shocked to see that. And it probably, if the athletic director is being called like that, imagine what it's like behind closed doors. I mean, they're probably, and that's probably the reason why I think he's on this media tour, because they can't agree inside, they can't agree in private. So he's going out in public trying to assert his will and bend people to his will. And
that's the Pac-12, Justin. That's the Pac-12. Yeah. I see it. Did you hear that report that Justin was talking about, Doug?
Oh,
I wasn't sure if you were familiar with that. Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
I broke so many laws while I was driving to North Carolina, being on my phone and reading stuff. It was not my proudest moment, but I had to be up to speed on what was going on. Yeah, okay. I saw that report from the North Carolina athletic director, and I mean that should be a gut punch to the ACC front office, because if you've lost North Carolina, you've lost the war. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, if you don't have North Carolina and NC State in the ACC, it's game over.
So
I think part of the problem is the politics here. Everything is political here. And I'm not going to get political on this, but it's a very complicated situation because you have so many. I don't know if it's like this in other states, but in North Carolina, the Board of Governors has the power. Like they are, and I know, just forget about the thing that they just passed. I mean, they would have had a final say anyway. I mean, if they wanted to stop it, they would have stopped it. But you have the Board of Governors, you have the Board of Trustees, and I don't know, in Florida, is the Board of Trustees in Florida more like an advisory body, or does it have actual power? Because in North Carolina, the laws say the Board of Trustees just merely advises the Board of Governors as to the well-being of the university. So it's not even clear to me if UNC wanted to file a lawsuit. I don't know if I think they probably could on their own, but they wouldn't be able to without getting a wink and a nod from the board of governors above them, and that's dominated with NC State people. And that's the reason why I've been of the opinion, if UNC sues the ACC, NC State's going to be a part of that lawsuit too, because you just can't separate the two. You can separate the two maybe in conferences, but suing the ACC, I don't think that it would be possible to do it without both of them.
Doug, what do you think about that?
That's one of the sub headings in the lawsuit and litigation. There is a statute, and I brought this up in a couple of the shows. The Board of Trustees is the only agency able to enter into a contractual agreement. So one of the things that the attorneys are trying to make hay of is that the Board of Trustees did not specifically sign off on any of the ACC contracts. Now, I will take a step back and say agency applies here. Agency means if you impute authority into a party like the president and allow him to act on your behalf, you can make hay of the fact that you did not give specific authority to the president to sign the contract, but you darn sure can't wait 12 years to raise the issue. And so for all those people that say, well, FSU has spent all this time making all this money and they can't sue. Well, no, that's not true, except in this issue of the president didn't have the authority to sign on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Right.
If the Board of the Trustees objected, they should have objected a whole lot sooner than now. So all that to say, the Board of Trustees is an advisory board to the president. The president annually is imbued with authority to work and operate on behalf of the Board of Trustees. And I think that's sufficient to overcome the argument that the Board of Trustees is the only body that can sign the contract.
I think it's a lesson learned that they're going to have to take forward, right? Everybody makes mistakes, corporations, individuals. So I don't put a lot of, I agree with you. I think just getting it out there and burning through that as a news item was probably the smartest thing they could have done. Mm-hmm. Timothy Green here, one of our members, reminds everybody to please give us a like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Thank you very much. And I clap. Thank you very much for all of you, Timothy Green, and everybody who's watching us right now. We really, really appreciate you being here. It's been an hour. If you're still here, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. And last but not least, turn on those notifications so that you know when stuff's coming down. Like Doug Rohan, turn on those notifications. The next post he has, because he's going to be leading the charge tomorrow night or tomorrow day, right? It's during the day. 9:30 in the so that's Eastern Daylight Time. So,
and I may or may not put out a starting lineup about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all right. Anyway,
I have a question for Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that the legal teams from Florida will be there tomorrow morning?
Probably one or two. I expect both sides to probably have 3 or 4 attorneys present. So yeah, this isn't something that the Greenberg trial is going to solely rely on local counsel. They're going to want to have their own people there. That's one of the things I'm going to be doing late tonight. Literally, I'm going to put together a starting lineup with some some fictional, some non-fictional historical information about the attorneys that I know that are involved. So trying to make a little bit of levity about what's going on. So look tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock for the tweets to start rolling in with the announcement of the starting lineups for both teams.
I want to follow through on a couple things here. First of all, Jamie Thornton has connections in high places in the ACC, and when I ever see her post, I'm like, oh, wait a second, I'm drawn to that right away. So I got a couple here. I'll read, and then we can discuss it really quick. Jamie Thornton, another member. Thank you very much for being here, Jamie. I haven't received one of your inside tips. These other guys are getting them. Why am I not getting them? That's a problem for me. I'm just teasing. Replying to Tony Lawson, she says the SEC is staying at 8 until UNC Clemson join the SEC, goes to 18. I think the number for the SEC is 18 as well. ESPN is going to pay those schools 100% by having the extra games for more revenue. SEC schools won't demand more. So talking about just moving them from the ACC contract over to the SEC contract. I know we talked about that before. There were some complications, but let me follow it up with this other statement from Jamie. That's the wrong one. Let me do this one. Replying to Keaton Shirley, and I can tell you, as I was told on Monday, that Clemson and UNC met up with some third-party friends in Nashville who gave friends who have friends in Birmingham checking out some country. So what she's saying is third-party people are having conversations out in the world. Florida State, I've already said it. I take it for granted Florida State has a home. What about these other schools?
I would like personally, selfishly, for Georgia Tech to be one of our travel partners because that means FSU has a home game in Atlanta. So I would love to see them. I like UNC. I like what they represent as a university. I like what they represent in terms of research. I would prefer to see UNC in the Big Ten with FSU, or alternatively, I would like to see FSU in the SEC. I was 100% sure that I wanted the SEC before the college football playoff snub.
Right.
After the college football playoff snub, I prefer the Big Ten. I don't ever want to deal with Kirk Herbstreit or ESPN again. Fox big noon game me 100%. But from a travel perspective, living in Atlanta, man, it would be great to have Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and those states, the primary away games for Florida State. I would love, look, the SEC has beat their chest for years about how they're the best conference, the most prestigious conference, and they are. From a Southern football perspective, they are. I wish Bobby would have agreed, and I know that there's some dispute about whether or not Bobby really wanted us out of the SEC or Florida kept us out of the SEC. But my season tickets include Wake Forest and Boston College and Duke, and then I get to travel to Pittsburgh and Syracuse. I don't want that schedule. I haven't wanted that schedule for the last 10 years. Give me Ole Miss at home. Give me Alabama at home. Give me a road game to Georgia and a road game to LSU. And my fall footballs or Saturdays are dedicated only to FSU and traveling to the FSU games.
Justin?
I think that there's going to be a real conflict with trying to, I think it could be done. I think it could be pushed through, but I think there's a real conflict trying to separate UNC and NC State. I think that because like I said, everything's political here. And the governor 2 weeks ago said they need to be in the same conference. When he says that, the House Speaker said that, the Senate President said that, and those are the people that appoint people to the Board of Governors. I think it could be pushed through because if you block UNC from going somewhere, you'd be blocking them from a lot of money. But I think it would take a lot of work to separate the two. It would take a lot. I'm not saying it can't be done. In fact, I would probably say that's probably the most likely outcome. But it would take a lot of work because most people think it's good for the state. And when people think it's good for the state for those two to be together, that overrides most other considerations. So that's really the only insight I can add. That's the only insight I can add is on UNC and NC State. And I think it would do what now?
Let me interrupt you there. You get going on a roll, and I have questions. Right?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah. That's all right. You're not a pro at this. It's not a problem. That may be true. Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina State, North Carolina, but Doug's already said it, and it's black and white. $30 to $40 million a year they would be leaving on the table if they didn't put one of those schools in the bigger conferences. I think your legislature is going to look at a return over 10 years in the hundreds of millions of dollars difference. And they said the same thing, Oregon State and Oregon. They said the same thing, Washington State and Washington. They're all political too, but at the end of the day, we're different. Money.
You can tell we're different from them because we passed what they passed at the Board of Governors a month ago. I mean, they are trying their best to get out in front of this and make sure they're not caught blindsided like UC was with UCLA or Oregon was with Oregon State. They're really, really trying. And I agree with you. It's black and white, 30 to 40 million a year. I think that at the end of the day, they would be separated, but it would probably not come without a cost, like some of that money being, or this. Yeah, right. Cal money. I don't know what it'd be called here in North Carolina, but
you'll have to come up with a name.
Yeah, we will have to come up. And I will tell you, back in 2017, lawmakers introduced a bill to pull UNC and NC State out of the ACC whenever they boycotted North Carolina. So these legislators are very attuned to what is going on, and it'll be fascinating to see.
It will be fascinating. All right, Doug, you have given us a ton of your time. I really, really appreciate it. I want to make sure everybody knows how important you are to be here and put your time with us today. Let me put your name up again, and you have a last chance to say anything you want on your way out.
Yeah, I'm really excited about tomorrow. It's a big day. We're not going to have any conclusions tomorrow, but we are going to have some clues. And so follow along with Rohan Law PC on Twitter or X. I do plan on tweeting my thoughts and putting out there. I anticipate being in the hearing room as the hearing's moving forward. I'll give you some insight as to what I think is the perspective of the two parties, of the two sides, what the judge is thinking, and then follow along with more insight on what happens as the judge makes his initial rulings.
Well, I really
Welcome
appreciate
to North Carolina.
Have fun, Doug. We'll be talking to you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Nathan. Take care. Bye, Justin.
See you later.
See ya.
I'm glad he traveled safe. That was something else I was going to ask him about. Okay, I've only got 20 minutes. I have actual real life to happen at top of the hour, but we're
I
going
got
to go.
NC State to watch.
Well, then get out of here. I can just do questions. If you want to take off, I can just do questions.
Oh well, no, they don't start till 9:30. So
okay, all right. Well, then let's bust through some of these questions, just so everybody knows. If you're a member, I defer to those comments first. You guys don't know how this works. If you do a super chat, they always go to the top of the table, and I answer them for very, very first. And then lastly, if you just want to leave a tip or provide memberships for other people, we do have gift memberships. I can't say it like Moen does, but down there at the bottom on the comment section, see a little $sign. One of the options is you can give gift memberships, and we always encourage people to do that so they can see these special shows. Let me go to that one last time so everybody knows what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about here right now. We're talking about shows that are behind a paywall. Right now, our special paywall is a special edition from Coos Corner, Why Notre Dame will not join a conference. All current members of the Mafia family will get that for about 2 weeks free. And then on the backside, it'll be open for everybody else. This is where the rest of those videos go when they are finally accessible by the rest of the country. And these schools to the Big Ten are some of the best productions you will ever see on YouTube. If you guys find something better, please let me know. But the quality of these things is worth way more than whatever I'm charging for a membership. All right. Let's do this. Remove that. All right, here we go. Let's get to some of these special starred comments. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Last thing, I want to thank everybody for coming in. I'm sorry I was out last night. I just couldn't make it work. So being here tonight, you guys are making me. I'm way excited about that. King Spleen, I maybe seen you before. Good to see you. If FSU, Clemson, UNC leave the ACC, wouldn't ESPN devalue the rest of the team's payouts? If so, wouldn't Notre Dame also receive less from the ACC? With the big adding members, big schools will stop playing Notre Dame. So Notre Dame's very complicated. You've covered a lot of those concerns right now. They're not a full member of the ACC. They do get a partial payout. Right now, that's a fixed number because the ACC was given a fixed number. So everybody knows what that amount is. What happens when it starts to break apart? Nobody can tell. I will tell you this. The ACC, I just disagree with Justin a little bit. The ACC minus FSU, Clemson, and UNC. No, you said Clemson, not UNC. FSU and Clemson, I think it's mortally wounded, but Justin seems to think it'll stay together a little longer until whatever.
No, I think if North Carolina leaves,
right,
I think it's over.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thanks.
I think it could survive as a power conference. It would have to, because any conference that has North Carolina would have to be a power conference.
Right, but say North Carolina leaves.
It's over.
All bets are off. Okay.
Correct.
Very good. I appreciate King Splin. That was a good comment. Let's see here. Expedition Greg says, Chris E., another answer to a comment. Our facts, let's see, Miami got its AAU status. Thanks to the Big Ten for that. 2, Miami has the backing of a big president big presidents. And number 3, Fox Sports is backing it also. So I've heard many people, even Peek Around the Corner, has said that Fox really likes Miami. What do you think about that, Justin?
Well, I like the ACC, and the number that, or the statistic that always stands out with Miami for me is that Miami has been in the ACC for 20 some years now and has never won the ACC in football. So I think that, of course, Miami's an attractive candidate. I mean, it's a good market, Miami. I don't know how good it is for college sports teams because I don't know how many times you watch Miami, but their stadium is pitifully empty.
Right.
All the time. It doesn't, I mean, they could have Clemson in there. The only time they sell that place out or put a lot of butts in seats is when Florida State is in town. So, yeah, of course, Miami's a good an attractive candidate. I think they're an attractive candidate for the Big Ten. I don't think it's necessarily that way for the SEC.
Okay. We have a follow-up on that. Chris E. says Notre Dame has special pay from the ACC to stick around. If the big schools leaves, Notre Dame will need more money to stay. Unequal distribution going on right now. I would argue that if North Carolina leaves by itself, Notre Dame would go, whoa, what is this that we're attached to anymore?
They would, Notre Dame would end the scheduling agreement.
Okay.
I mean, well, they'd have,
go.
because, I mean, what's good? What good is a scheduling agreement with a conference that has no power? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they need good games too to get into the college football playoff, to qualify, to get in the top 14, 16, however many it's going to be. So I think they'd end the scheduling agreement. They would not stick around. The only thing that I think could save the ACC when Florida State and Clemson, when Florida State and Clemson leave, is if UNC sticks around and the ACC moves to unequal distributions. That gives North Carolina a disproportionate amount of the money and Virginia a disproportionate amount of the money, and NC State and Virginia Tech and Miami. That's the only way I could think that UNC would stick around. Other than that, they're probably gone too.
Okay. Let's get to some more comments. Raider Vision, another member, says the same was said about OU and OSU, and look what happened. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. There is a lot of, there's people that believe that it's not a problem. There are other people that think, yeah, it could actually happen. So we'll find out more farther down the road. We will definitely know. Steve O, hi Florida. Good to see you here, Steve. And thus far this evening, not a mention of Notre Dame. Great show. Well, we had to do Notre Dame at the end there, Steve. Don't get too upset. I just wanted to make sure we did try to cover it. Glenn Luman from the Philippines says, good morning from the Philippines. When college football goes pro, will some schools form a new league around the college model? What do you think?
Will they form a new league like a NFL? I think we're already heading down that pathway with two conferences. The thing that I would be concerned about is I don't think it'd be legal. You know, the only reason the Group of Five keeps their auto bid to the playoff is because if they didn't, the Group of Five would probably sue for access and antitrust violations and anti-competitive violations. So there'd have to be access for some people, for schools to try and reach that new division. Like there'd have to be a way for them to get there. It wouldn't have to be easy, but there'd have to be a way for them to get there. You can't just take 30 schools, lock them in a room, shut the door, and not let anyone else in.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that there will be a complete breakaway where no one else gets access, like the Big 12 or whatever the ACC looks like, or whatever the Group of Five looks like whenever this happens. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some sort of NFL pro model to it, I think. And we're already there. I mean, the players are going to get paid.
I heard something interesting, or saw something today on Twitter that I thought was interesting. If the ACC gets diminished, they keep their power status, but they're even below where the Big 12 is. 15 to 23 million, something like that. It's unequal, right? You're getting really unequal down below. When that happens, then whatever happens to the rest of the playoff, they take 5 apiece, both the SEC and the Big 10, and they give the Big 12 3, and they give the ACC and the G5 1. And at that point,
playoff
I think,
spot.
yeah. I think that's kind of, but these are all ideas, right? We saw what they proposed 2 weeks ago with the college football playoff, with the secured things that everybody threw a fit. So, yeah, I don't know where we're going to end up with that. Raider Vision, one of our members says, saw an analysis today that Georgia Tech is way underwater to debt to revenue for the Atlantic departure. In other words, they don't have enough money to pay to leave the ACC. Their
Not
debt
many
is
people
something
have the
like
money.
250% of revenues, so they're way behind.
Not many people have the type of money that it's going to take to
Absolutely
leave the ACC.
Go ahead and wrap up, Justin. I know you got to go. You got basketball to go.
Yeah. My NC State Wolfpack plays at 9:30 against Texas Tech. So, and I was looking just, Oakland was ahead of Kentucky with 5 minutes to go.
Yep.
I was just looking at that. And if NC State wins, that's what they play the winner of that game. So hopefully Oakland wins and we can win. We can get a path to the Sweet 16. So thanks for inviting me on. I'll join more often.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do that. I put you in the DM group with all of our collaborators. Just jump in there. You're welcome to share. It's kind of behind the scenes a little bit, but yeah, I just hope you have fun and we'll definitely have you back.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. See ya.
Okay. See you later, Justin. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a great job. What a great show. You guys showing out. I've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to go through some more comments. Appreciate everybody being here. You know how grateful I am to you giving me your time. I hope we've been entertaining. Obviously, we're king of the hill when it comes to getting legal advice. We were one of the first ones to start it. Might have been the first one to actually get a lawyer on. And it's something I'm pretty proud of. So appreciate everybody being here. Hopefully you've learned some stuff, and more than that, hopefully you get engaged and you be part of the conversation, because that's what we're here. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm definitely telling you where to go to find the information so you can sort it out yourself. Another one from Jamie Thornton says, hearing UNC come out today and saying that not only do they support Clemson, but are looking at all options, including leaving the ACC, is just so insane for UNC. We never heard talk like that before. I thought that was the real, between the college football playoff, knowing that it's codified, they're going to make a lot less money, and then coming out and finding out that because of that, schools are looking for other places to go because their conference isn't worth as much as these others, and they think they should be in that bigger pool. Hearing that from UNC, I don't know. I've been saying for a long time the ACC is on borrowed time. But thank you very much, Jamie. I really appreciate you being here. Let's get to some more comments. Let's see. Here's one from Steve O. It's been a minute, Steve O. Good to see you. It was 3 for the ACC and G5 for a 16-team playoff. That's right. That he's referring to what I saw about the 5. I'm pretty sure that the Big 12 had a different number than the ACC, though. I don't know. You check me on that, Steve-O, but I thought the Big 12 had one more than the ACC did, but I could be wrong. Thanks for your comment, though. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Let me get back to some more I marked. Another one from Jamie. These are all the ones I'm marking that are important, people. Come on. You want your comment read by me? Just use my name, and I always try to pull them over. Jamie Thornton says, Miami is very odd as they have more fans across the nation, where locally they don't have a lot of fans. I know Immaculate likes Miami over Georgia Tech. Though, just like Fox and the Big Ten. I don't know. I still don't think, I know everybody's saying Miami definitely has a place to be. I am not confident about that at all. For some reason, I just do not feel Miami and Clemson. And Clemson's now out. Well, they're trying. Maybe they do have a spot. The SEC doesn't really need anybody, to be honest. That's not in their footprint. I could see him taking Virginia. I could see him taking UNC. Man, more than one school in a state. That just isn't their MO. Stephen Vitt. Good to see you, Stephen. ACC will lose significant value without Florida State, Clemson, UNC, and Miami. Yep, we've talked about that. That's absolutely true. There's nothing else to really say about that. Expedition Greg, another member, says, Chris E., here are facts. Miami got its I already did that one. I'm sorry. Did I read that one? Yeah, I did. I read it. It was a good comment anyway. I already did Greg's comment. Here I am getting to the ones that were earlier. Carrie Go Knowles. Carrie, good to see you. You've been on Greg's show. You've been on my show. I appreciate your loyalty. Great member, and we appreciate everything you do for us. Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, which is where Doug Rohan is right now, is as crooked as Bill Clinton's, and we'll let you finish that. Yeah, we'll find out. You know I'm pulling for you, Carrie. I'm on your side. I'm totally on your side, man. Conundrum, ACC getting attacked from the front, rear, and side. We'll take that without comment. Sooner Legends, a new member says, I'm having a first live. Oh, he already did that. First live show. Good. If you're still here, Sooner Legends, good luck tomorrow. I appreciate it. Make sure you share that link with me so I can push it out to the world. No, I already did that one. Let's see. Sergeant Pickles, Bomber has high standards for moderators. I have a show on here and I'm not even a moderator. Really quick, let's talk about that. Let me bring up the Discord banner. If you want to get involved with the Mafia family, and I'm talking involved like doing things, moderators is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for moderators that can moderate on Twitter, looking for moderators on Discord, and I'm looking for moderators on YouTube. If you feel like you fit that bill and you're a long time or even new member that wants to get involved, send me a DM, okay? I put the comment down below. Basically, that's all the information you need to get into that. But if you want to join doing a little more work, I'm looking for helpers because I'm sort of tapping myself out, unfortunately. D5 Terps says, nice to see Karma kicking the All Carolina Conference in the R's. Yeah, a lot of people aren't happy with where they're at right now. Let's get to a few more new comments. Tempest, good to see a recent member. Sorry. Well, if that's true, they have multi schools in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. I'm not saying they don't have any, but I do think that they're trying to limit them. That's all I'm saying. They might walk into the SEC. The minute the lawsuit's done, they might have their monogram luggage already. That's quite possible. I'll believe it when I see it, I guess is what I'm saying. Let's see here. Buckshot Kid, Boston College and Syracuse to the MAC. That's interesting because Ute is doing a thing on Syracuse, and he actually thinks Syracuse from a money perspective and a fan engagement perspective, they might be and basketball too. They might be higher on the list than we think for the Big 12. Anyway, Chad Bracey says, fire that bum, Bubba Cunningham. He's the AD, I think, right? AD at North Carolina. A lot of people want him fired. Greg says he's going to be retired. I don't know. But yeah, he doesn't have the greatest name out in the world of realignment right now. Tony Lawson says, Bomber, again, using my name. Good job, Tony. Do you have a show that only besmirches Wisconsin in the planning stages? I don't know, maybe. Give me a story idea and you know, a theme for a show. I won't ever say, I don't ever say never. That's all I'll say. That's funny though. Let's see here. Kyle Visser, Oakland up on Kentucky with 30 seconds left. That's what we were just talking about. Kentucky going down, BYU going down, man. It's crazy March Madness. Let's see here. Jamie Thornton says Clemson isn't that big, but they have lots of value. Yeah, that's what Ute said for the Clemson to the Big Ten short. He thinks Clemson's way up there in value. So he may be. Let's see if there's any others. Not that one. I like that one, Timothy Green. I'll always put that one up there. I think I'm all the way through. All right, everybody. I'm going to have to pull it. I got stuff to do, and you guys are really important to me, but I also have other responsibilities. So appreciate everybody being here tonight. We were at 100 viewers all night long. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Turn on those notifications on Twitter and on YouTube. Send me story ideas if you want to leave a comment on the video. You know, Big 12 Mafia or the College Football Mafia. Either one goes to me. If you want to get me messages, I always do story ideas. But boy, we're blowing up, and it's all because of you guys being here. Really appreciate it. It's amazing. An hour and a half in by myself, and we're at 100 people. I can't thank you enough. Thank you again for Timothy Green. I want to thank Justin and Doug Rohan for being here, and encourage you guys to follow that tweet storm that's going to come from Doug Rohan. Doug Rohan Law. It's Rohan Law. Let me just put it up so everybody can see it one more time. Let's see. It's Rohan Law, because I can't say it right here. Rohan Law PC for live tweeting for the Mecklenburg ruling tomorrow night. Other than that, you guys stay out of trouble. Have a great night. If you've been drinking on Georgia Tech, make sure you do not drive and stay out of trouble. Other than that, everybody have a great night. I really appreciate you, and we'll say peace out.